Nathan,
Howdy.
happy to have you in the studio, man.
Thanks, man. I'm stoked to be here. This place looks awesome. Right next to the train station. Pretty rad.
Good. Well, don't California my Wyoming. I know you're
Oh dear
big
God.
California now, so
Yeah. It's a great place if nobody lived there. You know, that's kind of how it works out. I was telling some buddies. So like I've been doing this album, and my friend Kellen, he's like one of the people I'm the most proud of on the album because of his growth. And I went and watched him play in Casper on Friday night, and in front of everybody, he introduced me as Mr. California, and I just was like, this fucking sucks. Thanks, dude. Really
I was wondering
cool.
why they had a riot in Casper on Friday.
Yeah, that was me. That was my fault. Sorry. Rest in peace to everybody who was there.
Well, man, you've been up to some pretty cool things.
Thank
we've
you.
been friends since college, and man, your story and your path to where you are now, it's pretty awesome. And the music, and you're working with a couple of our friends, Jordan Smith, Tris Munsick, Sheridan natives. They've been on the podcast before, and
And Sam Munsick from Sheridan as well.
Yep, and I mean the music industry and the music culture that Sheridan and Wyoming's populating now is pretty impressive, and you're kind of at the head of that. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, and being from Wyoming and Gillette and all, and what you're doing now, because you, like I said, doing some pretty exciting stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. I do want to start off by saying, like, it seems super easy because nobody has really tapped this market, and I was just I'll talk about it later, but I ended up in recording school, and COVID hit, and nobody could get any session players. Like, nobody would come in, and people who even live there, their friends wouldn't come in and record. And I was like, well, shit, I know all these people in Wyoming that would never have a chance to be in a studio where like Blink-182 was recorded, and I'll bring them in here, and hopefully they enjoy the experience, and we can get them a good song out of it. And selfishly, it was just an excuse to like hang out and have a couple beers with my friends, because I was having a really hard time making friends out there. So I was like, hey guys, I'll just bribe you with a song, and I'll do all the work if you just show up and sleep on my fucking floor. That'll be awesome. But I started going to school in California last June. So I've been out there for a little over a year now. I live there with my kick-ass girlfriend, Julia Popish. I don't know if she'll watch this or not, but hello, you're pretty if you do. And so she's a vet out there, and we kind of connected when I got pretty sick a couple of years ago. I got a little bit of a sore throat or cancer, and then I hung out with her in the hospital a bunch, and it kind of turned into like we started dating and didn't want to do the long distance thing. I was like, well, I really want to. Cancer kind of like propelled me into making my own choice. I was like, well, I can't just work construction or like be a ranch hand anymore. I need to go explore this opportunity. So I went out to California, and I signed up for the most expensive place, which is super smart since rent is so cheap there. And we've been there for a long time. And then my friend Sam was playing a show tonight at Blacktooth, hit me up and was like, dude, you need to come to this festival at Highway 30. We're playing it. It's a great time. And I'd just kind of gotten healthy, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go. And then we started going to that, and then I went again the next year, and I took Julia, and we met this band that I won't name because I still really like their music, but I had a couple beers with them, wanted to record an EP and talk to them about that, and there was a lot of hell yeahs, and they said they'd do it for sure. And I told them, this is going to be dirt cheap. You can stay at my house. All the recording time is free. I can get you like 35 hours and bank up a bunch of other students' hours. And they seemed to be very excited. And then as time went by, I couldn't get a phone call, couldn't get anything returned. And I came home all sad and told Julia, I was like, son of a bitch, like, what am I going to do? Fall musicians are like this. Like, this is going to be my life. And if I can't get anybody to work for me for free, how the hell do I expect to get paid? And she was like, well, if you could do anything, like, what would you do? I was like, well, I know some pretty successful people in music, and like at least in my little world. I was like, and then I know people that deserve a little bit more success. I was like, I'd make a compilation album of all my friends and hope that like the bigger guys look cool because they're willing to work with smaller guys and they bring some attention to it. And then my buddies who don't have as many fans or as healthy of a following, I feel like a lot of that is because they haven't recorded in the right areas and they just simply don't have the money to produce something like this. So I was like, they could hopefully absorb everybody's fans, and I just put everybody on one song too and give them a single. She's like, well, shit, do that. So that's kind of where I am now. And I'm going to try and have the whole record out in October. So the first song that came out was Wildcats by Colton Moore, and he's a Texas dude. He's been there a long time. And that came out on a Monday a little while ago. And then Jordan Smith, who you guys have had on here, I mean, I've known him since I was 4 years old. He's got a very, very strong song, and that comes out Friday the 13th. So very excited about that.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I mean, the Jordan Smith song, wow. That's
yeah.
He's a talented dude and has a very unique type of sound. But that's exciting, and I mean, but music hasn't been something that just you like, oh yeah, this is kind of something I like. You've had a passion for music in different genres and everything for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I was in a hardcore band when I was like 17. Almost, that's like why I have tattoos and stuff. I used to have really long hair. Used to steal my mom's straightener, do the whole thing. And
you an emo?
Yeah, everybody said it was emo, but I always thought it was more like we were more of a hardcore band.
Okay.
Like our lyrics were more about like brotherhood and like hardship and shit, not cut my wrists and black my eyes sort of stuff, And we did not sing. I was a singer, but I just screamed until I'd throw up. And so I did that, and then I was in a like country kind of cover band for a couple weeks. Man, if my parents watch this, until I got arrested. And then I decided that maybe I shouldn't be in music at that capacity anymore. And I haven't been in jail for a very long time, so that's good. And but yeah, I've always gone to concerts, always been really drawn to musicians. One of the coolest things that happened to me was my old roommate was Mike Poole. He started booking bands at the Cowboy. Now he books for Mile Zero Fest, and he just like started letting me hang out with these bands during the day, and I made a lot of good connections that way. And then that's how I would take them to the mountains in Laramie, or I'd take them to a bar, like whatever they wanted to do. And I always just knew that I wanted to be around music, but I was also pretty content, like making $50,000 a year, working construction, and just kind of doing whatever I wanted on the weekends. But I started to hang out with a lot more musicians, like more frequently too. And then it got to the point to where these guys would call me when they come to town. And then I really made an effort for my friends. I would go wherever I could to watch their concerts, and I just kept showing up at these things and eventually making a name for myself. I mean, I'd sell t-shirts, I'd help them roll cables. I'd do whatever anybody wanted. And I just never shut up and kind of weave my way in there, interjected myself into their lives.
Well, that's pretty effective, and you're pretty you've taken us out all on a pretty good ride at the 3rd Street, or
yeah,
you were a pretty staple at the Laramie bars.
Yeah, I was probably in Laramie a little bit too long. I really liked Mulligan's and the Cowboy. Going to the Cowboy tomorrow night, and I hope I survive. But it should be a lot of fun. I loved Laramie, and I really loved the people there too.
The picture of you swinging from the rafters of the Cowboy, is a legendary one.
That was like so Dolly Shine. That was their first time playing, and my buddy Zach was like, he just texted me. He was like, "Holy hell, man!" He was like, "We played down here in Texas, and Texas is supposed to be wild." He's like, "You drug all your friends up in the rafters. Somebody took that picture from the crowd." He's like, "Then you tagged us." He's like, "I sent it to everybody I could," and was like, "Dude, check out this bar." And then Mike Poole, my roommate, was like, "Dude, the requests for these Texas bands to play are just coming in because everybody has seen these pictures. And we were like hanging off of a buffalo upside down, you know, been at homecoming since 8 a.m., just whiskey bent. And everybody's like, you guys are so cool. And we're like, we don't even have any idea what we're doing.
We don't even know who played here last
Yeah.
night.
Who's Dolly Shine? I felt bad for those guys because the one guy, his name's Zach. He came one time, and then they came the next year, and we went to this thing called Kegs and Eggs, and it was like Clark Van Hoosier from here and like Tyrell Duncan and all those guys. We went to their house to do it, and somebody played dizzy bat and spun around and hit her with a baseball bat right in the stomach at like 7:30 in the morning. And I was like, oh, sorry about that. And Zach was like, yeah, you guys go a little bit too hard sometimes. I was like,
you woke up today and chose violence.
yeah, I didn't do it. I want to state that for the record. I had nothing to do with that. I was on the roof at that time.
You're just a material witness.
Yeah. I mean, the common theme in Wyoming is you kind of get bored and you like to climb shit. I mean, whether it's rocks or mountains or rafters or people's roofs. I mean, we used to just sit on Clark's roof all the time, ripping heaters. Not super smart, but it was a lot of fun.
Talk about a mountain man.
Yeah.
Clark is the ultimate mountain man. And you guys have been how many times have you climbed Cloud Peak now?
Clark and I have climbed Cloud Peak 3 times now.
And wasn't the original time that you did that, like, it was
a mess. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to tiptoe around it. It was terrible. Yeah, it took us 3 days. The last day we woke up and split a can of beans, and I hate beans. Like, hate them. We split a can of beans and a pint of beer just because it was all that we had left, and we just needed some calories. And we ended up getting out of there, but we were only supposed to be in there 2 days. I think it's like 26 miles. We turned it into about 30. We didn't bring snowshoes. Went first week of June. I didn't know it, but I definitely had cancer. And we just post-holed for 30 miles. Just kept getting lost. Then the last night we stayed there, we watched the lightning just bounce off all of the peaks. We got hailed on like 3 times. It was a mess. But then now every time we go back, it gets exponentially easier. We're like, oh, hey, we know where we're going. It's August. Like it tends to work out a little bit better.
God, I didn't realize that first trip was such a nightmare.
Yeah, it was
going in the first week of June. Like,
yeah, we saw the game warden in the parking lot, and he was horseback. But like in the parking lot, there was the trailhead. There was like 2 or 3 inches of snow. And he was like, "Oh, you guys going up to fish?" I was like, "No, we're in a summit." And he just laughed at me. He's like, "No, you're not." He's like, "Where are your snowshoes?" I was like, "I don't have any." And he's like, "You got to cross the river once to get there and once to get back. You know that, right?" And I'm like, no, I don't. We just kind of came up here, and I mean, we learned that those 3 days, we learned a lot. It was a rough time, but it was also what I told Clark. Like, I thanked him for it because I ended up in the hospital less than a month after that for a really long time, and I was like, dude, they keep doing all this shit to me, and hardly any of it is as hard as climbing Cloud Peak was. It was like, he gave me this ridiculous mental perspective where none of this shit is hard, you know? Yeah. I was like, it's hard because it keeps coming. And I was there in Denver for 100 days. But so like the monotony and that it just doesn't slow down, that part is hard. But as far as like the actual physical pain and all of it, I was just like, I'm fine, you know? It wasn't too bad.
And then you got hit with quarantine literally like
4
months later.
Yeah.
Quarantine for 100 days then.
Mm-hmm. I stayed in the hospital, and then like my parents were kind enough to take me in. I couldn't live by myself, and there was just like too many things that could happen, and I was pretty frail. So I lived on the ranch in the basement and just watched all of Netflix. It sucked ass, dude. It was not fun. And then it's always shameful when you're like, people are like, oh, what movie do you want to watch? You know? And I'm like, seen that whole series. Like I hadn't started Game of Thrones and watched all of Game of Thrones. Like my friend Abby Roach came over and brought me some Taco John's because I wasn't fat enough, and then just continued to watch all of Game of Thrones. But yeah, I was quarantined for like 2 years pretty much. I wasn't supposed to go to a store without a mask or anything like that, which I kind of let fall by the wayside, and I wasn't supposed to go to the gym very much, and I ended up going quite a bit. And then I got to California, and I was there like 2 months or maybe 3 months, and I'm Irish and was all fired up to go out on St. Patrick's Day, and they shut down the whole city on St. Patrick's Day. And we just kind of opened back up. My school now, if you're vaccinated, will let you not wear a mask. And I don't know what that's going to look like when I go back in a couple days, but
let's not worry about that now.
Yeah, right? I'm assuming they're going to make us all wear a mask.
That's not going to be a thing that you have to worry about until.
Yeah, and thank God, man. Look outside right now. I've been working on my parents' ranch for this last week, and it's raining. It's really coming down. And I hope the L-Bar 7 is getting that. It's been very painfully dry, man.
Yeah. How long have you had that ranch, or your family had that ranch over in Gillette?
My dad was working in the oil field, and then my mom was teaching PE in town, and my dad kind of got tired of the oil field and split the place. His name's Bart, and then Bert is his best friend. They split the place. I think I was like 4 or something when we finally moved out there. So, I mean, to age me a little bit, that's almost 3 decades that he's had that place. And he bought another place north of town a few years ago, kind of out by Spotted Horse. And now I just in Wyoming, so people don't hate you. I tell people I'm from Spotted Horse instead of Gillette. I'm like, yeah, I'm from Spotted Horse. Yeah, sounds good. Say the same thing too. Yeah, and when 3 million people listen to this podcast,
L-Bar 7. That's
yes, sir.
The name of the ranch. That's the savage swag that we're rocking on set today.
Yeah, we're. I made some more shirts, made some more hats. That part has been really cool. Wyoming is very supportive of stuff like that. People always tag me on Instagram and like intentionally will be like, dude, I'm going on this hike or whatever, and they'll throw a hat in their bag or a t-shirt in their bag, and they're like, I want to wear it at the top or whatever. And that's my favorite, because we started that when I was sick to kind of help pay my cancer bills, and everybody just showed up in such a big way. I was like, I can't let this thing die. So I just kind of kept it going. And there's a couple people, just because it's like medically weird, I don't want to say anybody's names, but there's a kid in Cheyenne with a tumor in his face, and I shouldn't say it so like flippantly, but he beat it, and he's a badass dude. And I didn't feel comfortable taking people's money anymore, so I donated some money to him, and then I donated money to a girl in Gillette who had cancer, and then this cowboy I know came down with a very devastating disease, and I got to donate some money to him. So that's kind of been like the cool thing now. And I still have medical bills every year. Like I have a bone marrow biopsy and a PET scan and stuff, and got to get blood work done. But it's nice to, like, everybody gave me so much, that it's really nice to, as corny as it is, like give back, but like Wyoming like kind of set me up in that way.
Yeah, no, that's the cowboy code of ethics. That's what people from around don't really understand. It's like, hey, there's a 3-degree separation of Wyomingites. We probably know, if you say, hey, I know someone from Laramie, we probably know them, right?
Yeah.
And that type of, we got to spread the love, especially in Wyoming. So we've always been like that. That's how we grew up. That's your dad's ethics. That's your family ethics. Like, that's the ethos of Wyoming, and not just...
Right, man, and you want to see...
It's not. You're not a loser for giving back. Like, it's just
well, thank you. No, but you want to see like some wild shit and realize how serious this is, and like how lucky you are. It's like, go to California and like they just run you in and out of that chemo ward, dude. They do not give a shit about you. Like my nurses in Gillette, my nurse practitioner, my oncologist, like knew me by name. When I come in, they'd say, how are you? Like half of them knew my dog's name, and like know your parents, and they're like, hey, have you been staying inside? Like you shouldn't be outside with the horses and the cows and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. And then just lying, but like, then you go to California and like nobody, when they told me that I was done with chemo, my doctor mispronounced my name. And I was like, dude, I've been coming to you for over a year, and you don't even know my name. And he's like, hey man, you're done with chemo. Like, I'm really glad to give you this news, Mr. Kissack. And I was like, okay, I've corrected you on my, like, which I mean, I know everybody says it wrong, but I'm like, I've corrected you every time I come in for a month. I'm like, no, it's just Kissack. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll remember that. I'm like, no, he fucking won't.
And I won't ever see you again. So
yeah, he's
go
like,
to hell, buddy.
He's like, I hope this guy dies. He's really bummed me out. And I can't get his name right.
What a loser. Gosh. But so you've had some serious adversity, but now that you're in the profession, you graduate in October.
Yeah, hopefully.
What's been the biggest takeaway from your experience in California at this studio that, like I said, Blink 182 records there? You see a lot of predominant figures, and you keep that under wraps. But it's just got to be inspirational when Grammy Award winner producers and mixers and everything are working within the same realm as you. You kind of like, you made it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have 27 grand, you can make it. As any student could bump in there and like see those guys, but it does definitely motivate you. And the school is for engineering, and where I've gotten really lucky is that a lot of my friends don't know the difference between an engineer and a producer. So I've been producing a lot of these songs, and they just come in and they'll hand me a cell phone, like they'll send me a voice memo demo 2-3 weeks before, like when they book their plane ticket, and go, well, what do you think we can do with this? And then I kind of marinate on that for a while, and then have them show up, and I bounce some ideas off of them and try and get session players in. And then like really my only session player has been Jordan Crimson pretty much. Like, I shouldn't say that because there's been like Cole Duncan, and then there's this girl, Cheyenne Benton, who sang a lot with me. And then I have this guy, Ryan Finch, and he's doing like all the bluegrass stuff. Ian Munsick's fiddle player, we've been flying him some things. Mm-hmm. He did Jordan Smith's song. He's I'm supposed to get an email from him today. Actually, he's finishing up Jordan Lisco's song. Are you
referring to Wynton Grant?
No, it's Tim.
Oh, okay.
Is his name? And he's like his traveling player right now.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah, he messaged me. He's like, it's going to be a couple days because Ian's on tour right now. But he did such a good job. Like, not good, that's sugarcoating it. He kicked Jordan's ass on that song. Like, it just sounds so good that I was like, well, this guy's pretty cheap, and he's got a home studio, and you can't really find country players down there. I mean, the dude has recorded a bunch with me, which is why this has turned out so cool, is in like pop punk bands and like mathy type of bands. And then he just has like indie pop projects and stuff like that. And he's been in God knows how many bands. And so he's like, I don't really know if that's country. And I'm like, well, it's not perfectly country, but it sounds fucking cool, so we're just gonna stick with it. But I think the most fun part about the school is like not really necessarily doing my job. I like the audio engineering stuff, but as far as like patch bays and like phantom power and mic placement and like routing and auxes and stuff, it's just like I don't care about it nearly as much as I should as an engineer. I care more about the song, how it sounds, making sure somebody stays true to themselves, and then pushing it. And I want to force feed it to everybody. Like, once I hear it, I'm like, this is so good. Everybody fucking needs to hear this. And I'm also going to share it 27 times on Instagram and like annoy you until all my friends share it and somebody listens to it.
Well, it would be annoying if you were sharing a bunch of trash. But
yeah. You can, if you want to buy essential oils from me, you can hit me up too.
Okay. The vanilla ones makes my house smell really nice.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hit you up for that. But I mean, your content and the artists you're working with are fun, especially for me being from Wyoming. I've shown C-Dub here. I've shown him some music, and he digs it. My mom loves the samriggs. Casey Donahue, she likes that Texas sound. I mean, country music is gonna explode. And I think the best part about COVID is the fact that the creation and the creativity was stifled for a year. Now guys are ready to hit the stage and put on their best show, and people are ready to support them. So have you seen some of that creativity or new ideas or anything?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily been stifled. I think it's just to a point where as an artist, it's like, what the hell are you going to do? You know, you can record a whole album, but then music sales are in the shitter right now, so you can't do anything about that. And it's like, you don't want to just release a song and then not go out on tour, which is the only way you're going to make money. Yeah. So it's like, what's the point of releasing a song? So a lot of artists, I mean, the explosion of people strategically releasing stuff as COVID is starting to let up, and like, I mean, all these venues are booked out so far in advance now, and everybody's playing shows on Tuesdays, you know, just anything to get people out to live concerts. And it's, I went to a show here on, what was that, Thursday with you? Mm-hmm. Saw Gabe and Gabriel the Bull, if anybody is listening, he's great. We watched him, and just even like, just Wyoming in this tiny little brewery, I mean, there's like 75 people there and open mic night, and there's like 9 dudes lined up to play, you know, and I've been to that open mic night before, and it's like 2 or 3 people like, I don't have enough material to even play here, you know, and they're just all swapping back and forth. So it's been, I think the explosion of the music has been really, really cool, and it's been, sorry, I had to burp, but it's been really fun to watch, and it's also been extremely fun to be a part of. And my teacher, well, not the teacher, the owner of the school, he pulled me aside one day. He was like, we've never had one student bring the level of talent in here that you have. He's like, and you did it during a pandemic. And I was like, well, Peter, I'm not trying to be a dick, but my friends don't give a shit about the pandemic. And he's like, yeah, I know, you're bringing them straight from the airport here. And I was like, yeah, well.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What's up, California? So yeah, like Jordan Lisco, I picked him up at the airport and gave him like tea right when we got there. And he'd been out until like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I put him in the vocal booth, and he's just sweating. And he's like, I didn't realize this was going to be so fast. I was like, well, you had 20 minutes, dude. What do you want? And he's like, I don't know, a nap. I was like, yeah, that probably would have been smart. But like helping these guys out who I think have vision, they just don't really know where to go with it. And there's not a lot of studios in Wyoming. There's not a lot of people offering people stuff like this. And also as an engineer, a lot of people will send it to mixing or send it to mastering or whatever, and they might post something on Instagram like, hey, I worked on this song, check it out if you want. And I just am like so proud of my friends that I can't let that shit die. And that's what I'm saying, like, I force feed it to people. I'm just like, okay, I like, even if I don't mix the song, you know, if I tracked it and was there, I just, every single person on this album is somebody who is my friend I've known for quite a while, and they're all people that I'm really proud of, you know. And I'm just like, people need to see this. And the fact that that the studio owner, who's been doing this for decades, sees these guys I bring in that have like 200 followers on Instagram. He's like, what the fuck, man? He's like, well, these guys are so good. And I'm like, yeah, they just ride a horse all day, or like fix fence and come up with melodies, or like they're in the calving barn, and like when winter comes, there's not much to do after you feed. Let's sit around a campfire all day and write a song. And he's like, sounds like a movie. And I'm like, dude, that's just what Wyoming is. And then the other guys are from Texas, you know? And so
I don't have a TikTok to get big like some people, you know?
But yeah, I don't have TikTok either. I don't think that I need to be famous. I just want all my friends to be famous. So, Instagram and Facebook is about as far as I go, but
you have a right to be passionate about the music and the projects, but like on a typical song, what's your role, or what are your, you know, you produce or mix, like define like what you're doing for these artists, particularly to publish their song, and how long does it usually take to make a song?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely depends on like the genre and the song, but school really opened my eyes to, like, I did not know how much shit happened. I was like, okay, you go to the recording studio. I thought mastering was what is called mixing. I was like, yeah, you send it to a guy, then it goes to the radio, you're famous. Like, that's how it works. And then you get there and there's like, you have your tracking engineer, you have your mixing engineer, you have your mastering engineer, and then like you have live sound engineers. And then some bands get so big that like your job could just be to be the engineer for the monitors on the stage. Like there's so much more that goes into it. But the part that I really like is the tracking engineer part. suck at mixing, and my buddy Jordan is very, very talented at it, and he's just light years ahead of me. And I'm like, well, I can send my friends to this guy. I feel very confident in what he's doing. He doesn't charge very much money, and I'm like, I feel okay with that. I like to be in the studio for it, but I mean, I will get a demo from somebody a couple weeks before. They'll send me a chord chart. I will show it to a session player, and then as they show up, we try and write guitar parts while the artist is in town, because that's kind of where the song like originates. And then I'm like, okay, if you like the guitar parts, you can trust me with the rest of the shit, and I will just bounce them stuff. But all of this is, I'm hindered because I'm only allowed in the studio 6 hours a week. Like, if you had a real recording studio and you had a paying client, you could track a song in a day pretty easy. But we're like, you know, we have people who, our session players are free, so it takes a little bit longer. I'm an audio engineer who has done it for a year, so I'm a little bit slow. Like, a lot of these guys, it's their first time in a recording studio, or they only have like an EP or something. Like, one guy didn't know what a click track was. Like, so there's a lot of those hurdles that make it to where I was like confidently telling all my friends, I'm like, dude, this shit'll be out in June. Like, you can tour on it in the summer. There's 2 guys on the album, maybe 3 now, that I haven't even gotten songs from. But Colton released his song pretty quick, and I was like, well, thanks for the pressure. And Jordan wants his EP to come out, and he should. We all worked really hard on it, but like, it's going to be really good, and he deserves to have it come out, but like, he wants it to come out soon. And so like, we're trying to have all this stuff released. So I'm doing a lot more than an engineer normally would, you know, like, I've got all these people. I'm trying to release everybody's stuff like when they're touring and have it help out their EP and stuff. So that part, I realized I just went on a tangent. I mean, it could take anywhere between when we like mix and have somebody record and then have session players, and then I've been lining up session players to where I'm like, okay, we're going to do all the guitars on all these tracks, or like, then we're going to do all the bass on everything, or we'll do drums for everything today. And so some of the guys who started early, like, there's like a Jordan Lisco, and like the Munsics came out there pretty quick, and like, their stuff is still kind of at the same stage as everybody else's, even though they're out there earlier. So I mean, for me right now, not owning a recording studio and only having access to it 6 hours a week, it takes months.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's a very limiting factor.
Yeah, and before we came to the end of the school year, like, I could just ask kids, you know, like, hey, are you using your hours this week? And a lot of them are like younger people. They're not really taking advantage of this opportunity, and they're like, yeah, dude, have my hours. I don't care. Like, write my name on the sheet. You have to be in there 24 hours a quarter. And there are some students that are like, oh, shit, I need to get my 24th hour. And I'm like, dude, I got that in 2 weeks, you know? Like, I get in there as much as I can because it's such a foreign space to me. And I don't know when I'm going to have an opportunity to be in a room like that ever again. Yeah. So I'm like, I need to use this shit as much as I possibly can. But now everybody was giving me their hours, and now they're like, I'm like, hey man, can I have your hours? And they're like, no, actually, I think you should give me your hours because you were taking all of them at the beginning of the year. And I'm like, I'm not giving you my fucking hours, dude. Yeah.
Sorry, amnesia.
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Yeah. Chemo brain, bro.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
I can't remember anything. Feel bad for me. I had cancer.
Yeah.
But
that should just go to every time. It's so screwed up.
Yeah. I try not to use it very much, but there are times when I'm just like, well, if this gets me another day or something, I might use it.
You totally use it. You have a pass.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, and then, I mean, and the benefits of all these would be the relationships you have with some of these artists that are just they are kicking ass.
Yeah.
You know, and I saw Cheyenne Frontier Days, for example, was like the most successful it's ever been.
Awesome.
And we had some local talent and stuff, but artists are really coming into their heyday right now. And you get to enjoy that. You get to go to those concerts. What was the Highway 30?
Yeah, Highway 30.
There was a bunch of different artists then. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of bands that play there. And then I would like to, well, Sam's going to come on here eventually. Oh, hell
but
yeah. He's right back there.
He's got to make that number 2 TikTok.
He made me
got that second TikTok.
Sam made me fucking cry at the music festival. I don't know if it was that or the vape pen, but he had told me on the river, he was like, hey man, I'm going to headline this thing next year. And I know where he started out at and how like he does a bunch of extra stuff for that festival. He'll like sit on a stool and play acoustic and then like talk about his charity and stuff like that. And then he goes back for like the festival owner's birthday. And it's like, you see how hard he's worked to do that shit. And you have to fucking go do that stuff because unless you're just like a huge guy, this stuff is not going to get handed to you. He's played the festival like at least 6 years. And so he took me to that festival, and then he decided we were going to whitewater raft, and we went, and he was like, hey man, I'm going to headline the festival next year. And I was like, to me, it didn't really seem like news. I was like, well, I think he could have done it last year, but like the new album's doing really good. And I was like, well, fuck, you deserve it. Like, that's fine. And then I was in the back of the crowd, and the guy who owns the festival, his name's Gordy, and he's like, it's crazy, dude. He's incredibly nice, but like has to go on vocal rest. He gets so excited. He just stands on the side of the stage and screams and waves his cowboy hat. He loves that type of music, and he picks bands very tactfully. It's like what he wants to do. And so I'm standing in the back, and I see Gordy walk up on stage, and I'm like, I know what they're going to do. They're going to announce that Sam's going to headline this thing next year. And Gordy just in front of everybody, he's like, I think you should headline this motherfucker. And I just like, I had sunglasses on, and I'm screaming, dude. I was like, let's fucking go. Let's go. And Julia was like, okay. It's staring at me all weird. And then I looked at her, and she was like, what's wrong? I was like, I'm crying. And she's like, that's fine. You're feeling a lot of things. And I was like, yeah. It was the last day. I was like, we'd been up pretty late and went rafting and like been to Zion like the day before, and we hadn't been sleeping very much. And I've been friends with Sam for a long time, so I was really, really proud of him. And I mean, that festival gets bigger every year. When you see it, it's been really exciting to see.
Where's that festival take place at?
That happens in Filer. I don't know how many people watch this thing, but like if you don't go to Highway 30 Music Fest, you've completely lost your mind. You can show up as the band starts and be in like the 8th row every day. A lot of people just it's kind of like the attendance is a little bit older, so like people just will like hang out in a chair and just drink beer. But like if you want to go and get rowdy and stand in the front row, it's not that hard. It's not like a regular festival where you got to get there a day in advance, and like you show up at 9 a.m. when the first band plays at 3 and you just like piss in the dirt and hope that you get to see them. Like you can be right in it all day, and they'll go until like midnight, and bands will start pretty early. Tickets are incredibly reasonable. The like camping is really cheap. Or if you want to, like, we stayed in like a little crack den Motel 6 for like $55 a night. Like it's a very affordable trip. And if you get your tickets early, like even if you don't get them early, if you get them early, I did the math at one point, and it was like $4 a band to go to this festival.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and they keep adding bands. They added another day this year, and so now this thing starts on Wednesday, goes all the way through Saturday night, and then Sam's gonna headline the main night. It'll be Saturday night, so it's really when everybody shows up. So
we'll definitely have to link the information to that because it'd be a hell of a show, especially if you're headlining it.
Yeah, Highway 30 is a blast.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, I think it's time that you should interview the man of the hour, the guy that's putting on a show at Blacktooth Brewery tonight.
Hello, Nathan Kissack.
Howdy. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so I don't know who's interviewing here. I guess we just shoot the shit.
Okay, I'm down to shoot some shit.
How did we meet?
We've argued about that.
I feel like we met before. Did we meet in Montana and then again in Stephenville?
I mean, I thought we met in Denver.
Denver, that's where it was.
And then, because like I was outside smoking, and Outrun the Sun had come out not too long ago.
Oh, dude, that's right.
And I was excited, and I was broke as shit and didn't have money to go to Music Fest. And you were with Mike Ryan, and you were riding back with them, but you were playing acoustic shows.
Yeah.
And then you were like, hey, man, if it like saw me outside, I was like, are you Sam Riggs? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, cool, man, I'm really excited or whatever. And you've just like, I had your fucking bumper sticker on my car like an idiot. And I was like, well, I really like this guy or whatever. And then you were like, man, if you know anybody that could come to this show, that would be great. And I was like, we rented a van. There's 8 of us here. And Sam was like, damn, there's like 15 people here total, you know?
Yeah, we were on tour on the Snowdrifts and Ski Lifts tour that Mike and I were doing, and it was like, we had just done a shit job of promoting it. It was January. No one was like back spending money after the holidays. A lot of people were at Music Fest and Steamboat. There was just a lot going on while we were trying to pull this off in the middle of the freaking snow-covered highways of, you know, Colorado and Kansas and everywhere else. And then, yeah, that's where we met. It was a Snowdrifts and Ski Lifts tour.
Yeah, and then we ended up at a place of ill repute after that. And then it was like, I was seeing a girl in Texas, and I saw you there at a party in the pasture.
Wait. Was that
Diamond Cabaret?
Did I get kicked out that night?
I don't know.
It's all coming back to me.
It would be
like
really hard. It'd be
song.
really hard to tell truthfully what happened because I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure I got thrown out of the strip club that night.
Yeah, well,
and it was not for doing anything like bad. I think I was just being wild.
Well, you were full of piss and vinegar then. You were younger.
Yeah, I was younger. That was what, 6-7 years ago?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Like, it always pops up on my Facebook. Like, I know who was there. Trey Wassberger was there. Cody Anderson was there. Jake Johnson was there. Brett Berry was there. So with that crowd, I mean, we could have gotten kicked out of Walmart.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's 100% sure. I'm pretty sure we tried to go to 2 strip clubs, and we didn't even get in the front door of the first one because I cut in line. And then they wouldn't even let us in the door.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would say when we really met was like, so we had met in passing at these things, getting drunk and stuff and just being wild. But then like we kind of grew up at the same time, like tried to get our shit together.
Same age.
Yeah. And then it was just like, you were coming to Laramie and I was like, hey man, I'm seeing you're doing all this outdoorsy shit. Like we don't need to go get hammered at the Buckhorn at 8 a.m. Like, would you like to go do this? And you're like, fuck yeah. And just immediately, I DM'd you like twice. And then you're like, fuck this, dude. Here's my phone number.
Yeah.
And you gave me your phone number. And then we just started texting and I just went and picked you up.
Yeah. He was like, do you want to go climb Medicine Bow? And I was like, yes. I had no idea we were climbing a 12,000 foot peak, but we
almost 13,000.
We like rolled up into the Wind River Range. It's in the Wind River Range.
No, it's in the Snowy.
In the Snowy. Okay, yeah. And so we rolled up in there. Beautiful part of the country, and we neither of us had sunscreen, didn't really give a fuck, and we just start like bombing this hill, and we had Nightlinger, your lab, with us, and yeah, we climb up to the top, and it was freaking awesome. And I checked my phone. I think I busted out Snapchat back when I had it, and I had the altitude thing on it, which was actually pretty accurate, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And it said like 12,000 and change. I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we glissaded down this like snow-covered thing, and Nightlinger almost ate me.
That was the day that I found out what that word meant.
Yeah.
I was like, he was like, are we going to glissade down this thing? I was like,
glissade.
I was like, I'm going to slide down this thing on my ass.
It's a mountaineering term.
He's like, yeah, dude, that's what it is. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, well, you church this shit up quite a bit. I'm in athletic, like in Nikes and tennis shoes.
But don't let him play it down. You're coming down like a 50-degree slope of snow and ice that's packed down after like being melted and frozen in the springtime. And then there's like a 200-foot drop, like cliff that you have to stop before you get to the end of it. So and when you get to the bottom, you know, you're like Santa Claus on crack trying to stop the sleigh, dude. You're just digging your heels in. And then Nightlinger's trying to eat my face while I was doing it.
Yeah, I don't know why. Nightlinger got very excited for some reason. That's how he shows love. I just hugged Nightlinger and kissed him goodbye today.
Oh man, I love that dog. I haven't seen him. Since that day.
He's a little gray around the mouth now, and he's taking care of a little puppy. So
I saw a little puppy.
He's on his last. He's like, this son of a bitch.
He's gonna be the death of me.
I just looks at him. He's like, damn it.
So we go from mountain climbing to it was like that Spider-Man meme, because we ended up having so much in common. It was like, wait a minute, you like mountaineering? Wait a minute, you like rock music? Pop punk?
Yeah. Do you like A Day to Remember? Do you want to go see A Day to Remember?
Oh my God, I'll never forget that. So we get tickets to go see A Day to Remember in Denver because it's like a halfway point between us. And
the reason I was in Denver, do you remember?
Because you were getting treatment for cancer.
No, I was getting a bone marrow biopsy.
That's right. Yeah,
even worse.
And we go to this A Day to Remember concert, which is like the Circle Pit. I'm pretty sure I cracked a rib. and our friend Taylor lost a shoe. But Nathan has this port in his back.
It's a pressure bandage.
On top of a hole in his lower back. And I've got a picture of it, of him
they
like
just
with
drilled
his
a hole in my
shirt
spine.
Yeah. And we're just at this metal concert, just like giving her hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, full on. It was Beartooth, I Prevail. Day to Remember.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was a dope show. The lineup was awesome.
So then we go from there to, I don't know, just so many, like canyoneering, Moab.
Yeah, we went to Moab, and then he took me out to like celebrate being done, like cancer free. And when I was healthy enough, we did that. And then a year later, I was off chemo. So I was like, well, shit, he hit me up, and I was like, might as well do it again. We went on the Sufferfest, and it was just, and then we went to, but like we'd been in talks, like we'd been friends at that point long enough that we were in talks of like going to South America to climb this mountain.
Aconcagua,
Yeah, we were gonna climb Aconcagua, and I was like, fuck, dude, I'm pretty far in over my head here. At least this guy's 6'9", like he's gonna have to carry my hobbit ass up this mountain. And then we met each other again in Montana, did this very chill little hike, and I was just like drenched in sweat afterwards.
Yeah.
Drank quite a bit with one of our friends, Maddie, afterwards.
Maddie.
Yeah. And then I went home. I was in the hospital in like a week.
Yeah.
But
it was bad news.
But I found out that I couldn't do Aconcagua, but it was like they were like, you're in really great shape, you know, and I had like these little fibers growing in my lungs that are supposed to stop when you're 16, like your lungs are supposed to stop expanding at a certain age. And it was because I was so terrified that Sam was just gonna punish me on this mountain. He was like, dude, I'm gonna like take care of you, you know, and like help you out with money on it and stuff. And I was like, okay. So I was just like, I can't show up to this fucking thing and be the reason we don't make it to the top. So I've been lunging like a half a mile at least a day. I've been doing HIIT training, and I'd been lifting weights. Then I had been on the stair climber for an hour, 3 or 4 times a week, like at a time. Yeah. And so
he was doing more than I was.
I didn't realize that, like, I was like, man, I feel like such a bitch. And what was happening was my lung was slowly collapsing because I had all this serous fluid just pushing on it. So by the time I got to the hospital, my lung was functioning at like less than 10%, and they pulled 2 liters of fluid off of it. But they were like, you're in great shape. And that's like the chemo that I got. They're like, once you hit 30, you're not even supposed to be able to get this. Like, but you're in such good shape. Like, if you want to sign this paper that says you won't hold the hospital liable if you die, then we'll let you have it. And I was like, will it cut down the time I'm in the hospital? And they're like, yeah, it'll cut it down. It's going to be way harder. I'm like, where's the pen?
Yeah.
Just give me that thing.
Dude, took enough chemo to take down a horse.
Yeah, big horse.
Yeah.
And I was not a big man.
That was wild.
But you came and saw me. He came and saw me in the hospital. The nurses thought I was famous. And I was like, I'm on Medicaid. If you like, you guys know that, right? Like, I'm not famous. But they were like, you're not telling us your real name because we think you're somebody. And they're like, musicians are coming in here and playing the Grizzly Rose and stuff and like stopping in. And I was like, no, these are just my friends. Like, I'm not famous at all.
Nathan was being a good boy. I took all the edibles that people brought for him and watched a river runs through it. And I had such a good time.
It was just one of the nurses' birthdays, and I was talking to her on the phone. She just cussed me out. And she said that night they came in, and he didn't eat all of them. It didn't take me very many.
So we can say it now that you took some? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, even my mom knows, so it's like, all right, whatever.
Fair enough.
Must be nice to touch the floor. I feel like Kevin Hart over here.
Foot swinging.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, she took my blood pressure, and it was so low, and my heartbeat was so low. She was like, oh shit, this guy's trying to die on us. Like, she was like, your heart rate should be way more elevated than that, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you're basically sleeping awake. So they were doing all these expensive blood tests on me, trying to figure out what was wrong. And I was just baked.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, yeah, I had like my, I better not say it. He's kind of like a big member in his community, but I had a guy bringing me stuff all the time.
Dude, I've seen the river run through it 15 times, and I got so much more out of it. It was awesome. But yeah, that was
sitting there trying not to cry. We're like, damn, this is actually
that was a hell of an experience. Man, I remember like Yeah, that was crazy, dude. You look like, if you were to put a picture of Nathan up when he was in the hospital versus now versus before, those are 3 different people.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, before, they call him the hobo with a shotgun. That was his IG handle. And he he had this long hair and like just a wild ass, and still is, but then he got cancer and he became this like Simpsons character. And then now he's like in the best shape of his life, and it's like, dude, but those 3 people, it's like they're all the same people, but they don't look the same. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can barely get on a plane still because my driver's license is from the hobo with a shotgun days.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, take your mask off. Take your hat off.
Take your shirt off.
Yeah. Take your pants off. Yeah, dude. It was. I don't know. It was a very interesting time for sure.
Yeah. So he's talking about the Sufferfest. So the Sufferfest was
wait, we should cut you off because Sam runs like a charity for mental well-being where you use nature and like the outdoors and isolation to bring yourself out of the depths of like depression or drug abuse or any sort of anxiety problems that you're having.
It's called the Air and Opportunity Adventure Company.
Yeah, we're wearing our own shirts here. We should have swapped, but I don't think you can wear a girl small.
Yeah. Yeah, and I started this company basically because it was a huge part of me overcoming my own addictions and depression and stuff like that. I feel like the outdoors is just like incredible for that. And so yeah, I started this. Nathan was a guinea pig for me to try out like all these different crazy canyons and trips and stuff like that. And he embarked on some crazy journeys with me, and we did. So I have this thing called the Incredible Journey that basically you hike into the desert a few miles and you rappel down like 300 feet down into the Green River. And then you blow up a pack raft and you raft down the river for 2 days.
Also, the first time he took me out, I'd never rappelled in like not a ropes course.
I put him on 197.
He dropped me. It was like 200 feet.
Yeah, it's 200.
And he's just like, I was like, what? I was like, my feet are on the wall. What do I do? And he's like, you're free rappelling. I was like, that would have been fucking cool to know before. And then you're like so deep into a slot canyon that you can't possibly get out. So
there's only one way out.
Yeah, it's like, so I sit here and starve to death, or do I risk it? And it was just us 2, so I didn't. He had to run the ropes because if I would have ran him, we both would have died. So he's like, yeah, dude, you got to go down first. So I didn't get to see anybody do it. I am deathly afraid of heights. And I'm just sitting there just trembling. He's like, sit down, dude. Sit in the seat. And it's like, 200 feet high in the air and you're supposed to just sit in the air.
It's like, not very intuitive to back over a 200-foot cliff. But you did so good.
Sort of.
You did so good.
It took me a minute.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. So to see your story unwind as like kind of like as Nathan was going through, I don't know, what I would deem probably the most like fascinating 4 years of your life.
Yeah.
There's been these trips that have sort of happened off and on through that time. And so it's kind of been these cool moments to sort of check in and watch your progress. And I've got to say, man, like to see the ground that you've covered, the mountains that you've climbed, literally and metaphorically, dude, it's stunning. And the thing of it is like, you'd never know that. Like just if you met Nathan in a bar, he'd talk cows and shop and shoot the shit, maybe talk about rock music. And you'd never know that he beat cancer, climbed mountains, you know, has like overcome so many different fears, is an incredible friend, you know, brother, son, and also is awesome to his girlfriend. And, you know, I don't know. I feel like the world's lucky to have Nathan Kissack. And that's my dick sucking for today.
Yes. All right. I'm going to write a book. It's going to be the beginning. It's going to be the start.
Yeah.
It is very cool though to have a homie that's like, hey, like we're gonna get like I'm gonna get a tattoo today, or like here's the song link, you know, or like.
But you treat me like you're like I'll send him a song and he'd be like, meh, I've heard better, and it's like I'm like, what the fuck, really? He's like, do you want a yes man or you want the real shit? And I'm just like, all right, yeah, I want.
I'm like, dude, everybody's gonna tell you the song's great, but don't you think you should know before you can put it out to the masses, they could be a little better.
But then I sent him like the demo for Until My Heart Stops Beating. He was like, "Let's go!"
Yeah, I freaked out over that. I had to download Dropbox. I was in a skid steer moving cow shit. Didn't have enough like LTE or whatever. I'm still not good with technology, but like I had to go back to the house and get Wi-Fi to download Dropbox, then to download that, and I just listened to that song like 20 times, cleaning cow shit out of a pen. And just like air guitaring a pitchfork like a redneck. But what I was gonna say, what's cool is to have Sam just be like, he knows that I will, because I'm always like, the power of almost dying is pretty epic, because you're just like, okay, well, I don't really like to tell people no anymore. If it's something that I think I want to do, it's like, do you have the money? Do you have the time? It's like, definitely fucking not, but I'm gonna do it. Oh, so he just hit me up like, it was just like 18 hours at this point. He's like, hey man, I want to do this epic trip where we like drop into the canyon and float out. And he's like, we'll just rappel off this cliff ridge. Nobody's ever done it. And I was like, okay, sick. Like, when do I have to be there? And he's like, Thursday afternoon. It's like Wednesday at noon. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I look it up. It's 14 hours to drive. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to leave tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. And he's like, well, I could fly you out. And I was like, no, dude, you've done too much. Like, I'm just going to drive. So I say you've done too much. It's steal my girlfriend's car and drive out.
He takes his girl's car.
Yeah. Like, well, dude, I got there for like $42.
80 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get there, and it was a first descent, and it was it's interesting because pack rafts, you're not like dry. You're kind of sitting in the water, and we're paddling out, and we had Trevor, this guy Trevor, with us shooting it on camera and kind of filming the whole experience, and it kicked all of our asses. We had a headwind a lot of times going down the canyon. We had
low water.
We bumping our asses on sandbars half the time. But I feel like, in my personal opinion, like if an adventure goes smooth and everything goes to plan, it's not really an adventure. It's just a trip.
Right.
So going and having these like hardships, and then like setting up camp and like making a fire and talking, telling stories, seeing alien spacecraft in the middle of the night. No shit. We're laying there in the canyon bottom, and we don't even have tents. We're just laid out on sleeping pads and sleeping bags. And I'm talking to Nathan. It's like there's 3 feet between us, but I'm like sitting like here, like we're in bed, and I'm like leaned over and I'm like looking at him talking.
Hi, what are you doing?
Over his shoulder comes this string of lights in the sky, and I just listened to the Alien podcast with Rogan on the way out there. Aliens.
I was like, I don't want to fucking play anymore.
We were talking about how like Utah and like that part of the world has so much like the skinwalker stories and like the aliens and all this kind of crazy stuff, and here comes a string of lights, and I'm like, Nathan, what is that? He's like, what is that? And he looks over, and there's like no shit. And then we found out it was a military exercise, but it was a string of lights in the sky, low altitude, and you could just see it where the canyon dropped down like this. And they
on
were
a grid too.
Yeah,
like they were just perfect,
just going like that across the sky.
And then as they got closer, we realized they were in pairs. We thought there were 7 planes, and there were 14.
No, there was close to 100.
There ended up, well, they came in like chunks.
Yeah. They came in chunks, but yeah, there was like, seven pairs of 14, and they can't like, and there was like, I don't know, like 7 groups of those. And anyway, we once we calmed down and realized we didn't think it was aliens, we went to bed and woke up the next morning. We paddled the rest of the way out. And then part of this trip though is I staged my plane. I got a little 182 backcountry plane, and I put it down at the Mineral Bottom airstrip, which is right on the Green River. And so we pulled out of the river and loaded all our shit into the plane, and we take off at the hottest part of the day, which high altitude, hot days, it's dangerous taking off out of there. So I had to make 2 trips. I took them back separately because I didn't want to chance it. So we take off out of the canyon, and, we're buzzing it and flying the canyon, 20 feet off the water, just like following the canyon and climb out. And it was like,
he's a real asshole, dude.
I
don't like heights. I don't like heights. I don't like planes. I don't really like the heat. I have no fucking clue why I go on any of these trips.
Dude, it was so epic though.
Every time I get there, I'm just like, son of a bitch. I'm going to be here for 3 days.
Yeah.
All right. And then I'm always trying to get my girlfriend to come, and she's like, that sounds terrible. Did you even have fun? I was like, no, I had a blast. And she's like, no, what you described to me did not sound fun. I'm going to say,
poor Trevor, he was like, dude, we wore that kid out.
Well, I told them I saw him at the music festival, and he was like, dude, well, like physically, cheers
Cheers.
to Wyoming. If you like physically, oh dear God, you just did it, huh?
I want to say age 12 years.
Not anymore. It's not. But yeah, he was like, yeah, man. I mean, he's like, physically, clearly, it kicked my ass. He's like, but no cell phone, no computer. He's like out there on a river all by myself, just struggling. He's like, I didn't fucking like that. And I was like, well, that's the point.
It's supposed to like take you through a mental, like, I don't know. It's a mental charade. It teaches you about ego. Because if there's, dude, the mountains and canyons are the ultimate equalizer, dude. It will bring you to your knees. You think you're badass? If I ever start thinking I'm badass, I always start planning a trip. It always brings me back.
You're going to learn today.
You're going to learn today.
Of all the trips you've taken, what has your guys' favorite trip been?
Not necessarily together.
No, whatever you
Okay.
like.
Just in life. Go ahead.
Oh, shit. So you can think about yours and yours can be all poignant and you can look smart.
I could go first.
Yeah, do that because I'm stuck between Iceland and something else.
So I've taken some pretty incredible trips. I've been all over the world to New Zealand, Iceland, France, UK,
Shout out Rook
South
in New
America.
Zealand.
Yeah, made my son, my wife Rachel and I made our kid in New Zealand unexpectedly. Rook, what an incredible kid. And I got to say, like, all of those places are absolutely just incredible, but it's the places where, like, it's the shitty trips. It's the ones that, like, I met my match as far as, like, challenge goes, and that is where I have found myself. There's one that comes to mind in Utah, but probably the story that I should tell is about Aconcagua. And I went to Aconcagua, the trip that Nate was supposed to go on, but he ended up getting cancer, dick.
I really pissed. I pussed out, dude. I should have went.
Yeah, and I failed. I almost died on that mountain. I had been on tour. I was in the middle of a divorce. I was full of heartache, physically exhausted, was still riding out, getting clean, and it was a really hard time in my life, but I went for it anyway, and my heart was ready in some ways, but my mind and my body were not. And I made it to a little over 17,000 feet on that mountain, and my body just started to shut down. I had bad acute mountain sickness. I had climbed really fast with some Nepalese climbers, and it just kicked my ass, and I started to, like, my vision started to black out every time my heart would beat, and I had the onset of what's called HACE, high altitude cerebral edema, and it's where your brain starts to swell, and from lack of oxygen, it's a stress response, and so I also realized that I couldn't feel anything from my calves down, and I lost all the toenails. I had a real bad frost nip on my feet. So I go down the mountain and I take a spill, because it's like walking with, like, your legs asleep, and I take a spill and I fall and I twist my knee out of hell, and it ends up I can't get off the mountain. But I'm at base camp at 14,000 feet and I'm just miserable. And, you know, Leonardo, one of the photographer that was on the trip, he and I became steadfast friends, and he came to my tent. And he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, I'm trying to radio for a helicopter so that I can get off the mountain. We're trying to figure that out. And I said, I just feel so defeated. I feel like I came here to do this, and I feel like I just fucked up, man. Like, I shouldn't even be here. And I've never failed on a mountain before. And he says, "My friend, we come to the mountain to set our priorities straight. And what do you want to do when you go home?" I said, "I just want to go home and figure my life out. I want to fix my heart. I want to fix my head." He said, "Then you did what you came to do. The mountain has served its purpose. You weren't meant to climb it. You were meant to figure that out." And that sort of, like, started to set things on the mend in my heart. The helicopter came 2 days later. I was able to get off the mountain. They were delayed due to high winds, but I couldn't walk off. It was 18 miles out, and I just couldn't. My knee couldn't take it. But on the way out, I just remember thinking how badass it was to like be in a helicopter in the mountains. Like, this is cool. And I was already a fixed wing pilot, and I was like, man, I want to learn, at least try to learn how to fly a helicopter. So when I got signed off by my doctor to go back to flying, I called the local flight school and I said, hey, I want to book a flight just to learn, to take a helicopter lesson. And they said, okay, that sounds good. We'll put you with Rachel. And I said, all right. And yeah, I can remember stepping into the office and sitting down, and she came in from the hangar, and it was like out of a movie. The door opens, wind blows in, she fixing her hair from being out there, this beautiful blonde woman, and she sits down and she says, hi, I'm Rachel. And if we, in that handshake, we could have seen what would have happened over the next 2.5 years. It would have, I mean, it was like something out of a movie, and she became the love of my life and the mother of my child.
What the fuck? I should have went first.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like, okay, so I already told the story with me and Clark, which is probably my favorite one. Are we still good? Yeah. You already swapped him?
Yeah.
You bad
going.
bitch, you. I don't know. I already told the Clark one. I feel like Clark it's like one of those things where you say, you know, like, you need shit to go wrong. And I mean, if I'm eating beans at 7 a.m, some shit has gone very wrong.
Eating beans and drinking beer.
Dude,
that's some John Wayne shit right there, dude.
I mean, I can't tell you how much I hate beans and IPA, and it's what I woke up to.
Oh my God.
Like, kill me. But yeah, that was, it's like one of my favorite trips to look back on, because it was just so fucked the whole time. And we get to laugh about it, and we've taken 2 people on it now, and 2 different people. We were going to try and take you this year if you had time, but you've ended up not, like, you just got here today. But I was like, it's so impossible to tell them what happened, because you go in August and they're like, well, yeah, there's a little bit of snow up here. I'm like, no, you have no clue. Yeah. First week of June.
Because it's hot everywhere else except up there.
Yeah. And then, like,
we're warming up.
To have the thunderstorms just roll in, you know?
I can remember he had a spot of service on the mountain, and I just get this random pic, and we both got iPhones, and it came in on a text message. And it's just Nathan huddled under a tent with hail everywhere. It wasn't even a tent, it was a tarp.
Yeah, we just had Clark's tarp, dude. And my poor dog, he's looking at us, he's like, fuck
Nightlinger?
you guys. He was in the tent.
That's why he's all gray mouth.
Yeah, he's in the tent just like, dude, I'm going to freak out. I don't know. It's hard to nail down a trip because there are aspects of everything that I like.
Tell me the story. Tell me the story about how you paddled the Green River backwards.
It's not backwards if it works. I was going faster than the guy dude who was longer than I was in height.
Nathan I keep looking back, and Nathan or ahead, we're just like all over the river, and Nathan is paddling backwards down the river.
Instead of going like this, I'm just like, but dude, I work out a lot, and I just wanted to use a different muscle group. I was like, okay, like, instead of going like this the entire time, I'm going to start using my like lats and stuff and my shoulders to push myself back. So I just flipped the raft around and paddled backwards. And it was just, at first I was trying to hide it. And then by the end I was like, I don't care what anybody says.
I think the truth of like why it was easier, one of the reasons it was easier to do that, it was because you have your pack and shit all on your feet. And so the front of the raft is sitting further down in the water, and the current carries a lighter into the raft around. And but like, I kept being like, Nathan, just turn around. You'll have more control. And like,
I wasn't having any control. The raft was so light that every time I would take one stroke right, I would just go sideways. Sideways. I'm like, no, fuck this. I'm turning around.
Dude, I remember looking back, and Trevor's just out of his raft and walking,
dragging his raft,
walking along the bank of the river, dragging his raft. And I'm like, Trevor, get back in your raft.
You like rode by me, and I hear you in the background. You're like, what the fuck's up, Huckleberry Finn? What are you doing out here? I was like, oh, here we go. And that first night, he was so sunburned and stuff, and then he had the desert rats get into his crackers. I was like, this poor dude is gonna he's in for a rough day. And he was like, so we're like way past halfway, and you're like, not really. We're a little bit past halfway.
Well, so we put in 5 hours the first day due to the winds, and 3.5 hours the second day.
Yeah.
And it was 8.5 hours. And
we
that's
started as early as we could to beat the wind.
Yeah, we got going, man.
It was a breeze in the morning. I was like, shit, is this how this whole thing could have been? This is so easy.
It's a coin toss of what the winds are gonna do. You know?
Yeah.
And you'd come around a corner and you'd have a tailwind pushing you, and you'd come around the next corner as a headwind. You know, canyon winds shift like that. It's all crazy and different. So, but yeah, dude, it's always amazing watching Nathan, because if you want to talk about somebody who just won't say no, it won't quit. Like, this guy doesn't know what I can't means, and it just like, that's the good thing. It's also dangerous because you can put him on any mountain or any incline or any challenge, and he just won't quit until he gets it done.
Yeah, I've never not climbed a mountain. I don't know what it's like. If we would have went to Aconcagua and spent that kind of money, I would have
probably made it. You'd have probably summited.
Well, I would have died if I didn't.
Died going up.
There's
there.
no, like, somebody's like, hey, this is $8,000. I'm like, you know what $8,000 is to me? Like, I will die.
Well, one of the problems
for $8,000.
One of the reasons my feet got so cold is because they said last minute, hey guys, instead of the 6,000 meter boots, we need 8,000 meter boots, which are the same boots that they use on Everest. And so, but everyone else was from the UK and Nepal, and I didn't get this freaking email. And so I brought my 6,000 meter boots, which I thought was good enough for an 18,000 foot mountain, you know, like 20,000 feet ish, you know. No, turns out, nah.
Hard to walk up the tallest mountain in South America when you can't feel your feet.
Yeah, it was bad news bears.
You can have the rest of that if you want.
I'm all right. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I figured I
got a little coffee in it.
Yeah, a little. It's called branding whiskey. You just have her in the morning. I don't know. I would say I would like to wrap up by plugging myself a little bit and just saying, like, Dark Skies. Dark Horse is a coffee shop in San Diego, so you're close.
Let's just plug you.
Well, okay. I have a hard time not plugging you, but I'll try.
That sounds so dirty.
I'll plug you. But yeah, I'm working on this album, as I talked about earlier. It's there's 3 Texas guys. The rest are all Wyoming guys. A lot of them are people you'll know. Sam's gonna get me some stuff. We haven't even talked about it completely yet.
It's gonna be satellite, but we're gonna.
Okay, yeah, which I mean is what's happening with quite a few people. But I'm just really excited about this. I think that Wyoming has a shitload of talent, and I think that a lot of people don't know it because a lot of people haven't marketed themselves well enough. And I think the headroom on a lot of these guys is pretty fucking wild, and I'm really excited about what I did with a lot of them in just a span of 36 48 hours and some phone calls. And I just hope that everybody will kind of tune in, because it cost me $27,000 just to go to school. Rent in California isn't cheap, and I've flown all over the country also to do a little bit of it, and made a great friend in Jordan Crimston, and he has been a rock in this thing. I mean, he's helped me out a ton, and I really appreciate everybody with like Colton's song and Jordan's song already. Like, everybody's been sharing it a lot, and that's just kind of what Wyoming is about. I feel a lot of Wyoming support. There's not a ton of people in California plugging my shit. So,
dude, you're gonna like this. Like, you can't help but succeed with this. There's so much heart and soul in it, and so much talent. This record is drenched in talent, and I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about everybody that Nathan hand selected or asked to be on it, and then Nathan is so loved that nobody said no.
No, not a single person said no.
Yeah, and it's just like, this is gold.
It's crazy, dude. Like, I was calling people, and by the time I got to like the second to last guy, he was like, what the fuck do you want me to do? And I just told him, he's like, cool, man, say that to other people. He's like, this should not take 15 minutes. And I was like, well, I just didn't think anybody would want to do it. So I had to justify it 87 different ways in like all these roundabout conversations and finally bring it back to like, so do you want to have a free vacation in San Diego and come to the weekend and eat donuts and shoot tequila and like maybe go to a dispensary, and then I'll also take you to the biggest live room until you get to Hollywood, and I'll record everything for free. And they're like, yeah, that's what the pitch should have been.
Yeah,
like,
that's
fast.
exactly what it should have been.
Like, so man, like, how's your wife? How's your kid? Yeah, people in California suck. And yeah, I got it down by the last one. But I really appreciate everybody saying yes. There are people, including Sam, that as a student, I legitimately have no reason to even be in the same room with a lot of these people. I have made some of my teachers extremely angry because they're like, they'll see a song, they're like, I just saw this guy's Spotify, like this guy's gonna be on it. I'm like, yeah. Like, been doing it for 10 years, and like, I've never worked with a guy that big. I'm like, well, maybe you should fucking ask. I don't know. You're clearly better at your job than I am. You're teaching the class. Yeah. But like, it's been
made you get tested 3 times in 2 weeks for COVID.
I mean, it's gonna happen again, so that's cool. But yeah, I just hope people really like it. I'm really excited for the group song. We got Jordan Smith's song coming out. The group song will come out last. I tried to shoot it, music video for it this week. The smoke canceled it, but I met our videographer. His name's John Balk, and he got out of a white creepy ass van, threw this camel light on the ground and stomped it out. Has tattoos everywhere. His ears are gauged, his nose pierced on both sides, and then his hair is shaved on the sides into a mohawk. And he's like, I was like, this is my fucking guy.
Yeah. Let's rage.
And we went out, and I was like, well, dude, I was like, song. Oh, one thing I do really want to talk about quick, like the biggest dick swinging move that I've had in California is I'm recording a song about hanging Californian horse thieves. That's probably going to get listened to more than any of the other songs because it has everybody on it, because I'm trying to cater to the algorithm of Spotify.
Can I be on it?
Yeah, you're on it.
Okay.
I want you to have a verse.
All right.
So, okay, yeah, we should talk more about shit that's real instead of like, hey, have you heard the new Point North song? But yeah, I was like, I've been writing this song, and Jordan has been gracious enough. He's like, doesn't care that I'm writing about hanging Californians, but I've been in this insane studio talking about hanging Californian horse thieves, and I want to shoot the music video for it. Well, there's wildfires going on around here, and I talked to the guy, and it canceled it. But we went out to Kellen Smith's ranch. He's got a lot of land, and the guy was like, okay, this looks cool. And then he's like, I'm gonna rent a video camera. It's something that's like $700 a day to rent this lens. He was like, this will be like Warner Brothers quality. Oh, this music video will. He's like, we're gonna shoot it for a day. And I was like, he's like, we're getting a makeup girl out here. I was like, I don't have the money for that. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, but I just saw this land, and he's like, all this shit just came to me. He was like, this is going in my resume. He's like, can I release it on my own YouTube channel? I was like, yeah, you're going to do everything.
He'll pay for the...
Yeah, and he was like, I've got it. He's like, I'm covering the makeup. I'm not going to charge you anything to shoot it. I'll charge you a little bit to edit it. He's a real estate photographer that's trapped in like graduations and weddings and stuff, but he's this like,
dude, I want to come up here and shoot Daisy. I want to shoot the music video for Daisy up here.
Yeah, let's do it. Tell him to let you do it. I know he would.
But you got to be in it.
Okay, yeah. I'll rob a bank. The only thing is now, well, I don't want to give it away.
I want to do a music video where like a place beyond the pines and like 310 to Yuma, like
ooh,
meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, we have some land like that, but
I don't have Ryan Gosling, but I have me. That's just gonna have to work.
You're probably less of a liability at corner than he is, anyways.
Yeah, true it is.
But yeah, I was talking to everybody. I'm like, I don't know who we're gonna have be like the Californian horse thief, and everybody's like, you. I'm like, well, so now my YouTube search history is fucked. It's like, how do I hang myself without dying? And so I don't really know how I'm going to do it. My parents are terrified.
I can already tell you how to do it.
Yeah, we're going to do it with a harness. So
yeah, you do it with a harness, and you attach the rope to the harness so that when it pulls down, it just slides down the harness just far enough. Use rubber bands.
Yeah.
Can you actually shoot that as you're rappelling down the side of the...
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it looks like I'm hanging myself on it.
It's like on
an air and opportunity trip. Yeah. People are like, I don't hate my demons that much.
Yeah, this is not 127 hours. This is 126 hours.
Yeah, to the grave. But I was talking to this guy, and I was like, yeah, man. I was like, if somebody threw up, I wouldn't mind. Like, I was like, I want this to be dark. I was like, I have a lot of spite for this place that I've been for a while. I was like, I want it to be nasty. And then we pulled up, but we were checking water with Kellen, and he has a dam where his water tank's overflowing. And the guy was like, can we drag you through the water? I was like, yeah. What? He's like, well, we're going to catch you. We're going to drag you through the water. And he's like, I'm going to drag you to the base of that cottonwood, that lone cottonwood, and we'll hang you right there. He's like, Kellen's gonna spit in your face. He's gonna punch you. He's like, everybody's gonna kick you in the stomach. And I was like, Kellen's just like, Jesus. And I was like, well, I was down to get hung, and I was honestly a little bit scared about that. And I'm like, these guys are gonna drag me on a horse and stuff. And he's like, yeah, man, this is gonna hurt. And I was like, well, let's make sure and get everything in one take then. And then the worst part is with the light the way it is, they're gonna hang me in the morning. So it's like, we have to shoot the rest of the video. I was
wake up and get your fucking face spit in.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Kellen shoes too. He's like, yeah, man, I'll spit right in your face. I was like, okay. So that music video, that song is a song that everybody else has had final say on the record. I'm like, with your song, you get to do whatever you want. I have ideas. You're the artist. You can veto them whenever you want. That's how it works. But this is like, I got two Wyoming dudes to write the song, Jordan Smith and Jordan Lisco. And I was like, hey, I was like, the thing is, once I get this, you're done. Like, we have the acoustic guitar part. I'll keep that. I won't change any of the words, but the instrumentation, the production, this is all me. And I'm making it like pretty
this
country.
Is my world, Grandma.
Yeah. It's like a country metal punk bluegrass song. And, there'll be 9 dudes on it. So I'm very excited. And it's called Roan and Rope. It'll be the last song that's out.
Roan and Rope?
Yeah, it'll feature everybody.
Like a roan pony?
Yeah,
Nice.
That's the horse that I steal.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's there's if you don't like Californians, which a lot of people in Wyoming don't, this music video is right up your alley. So
I do want to say we don't hate all Californians. We're of a different mindset where, you know,
don't California my Wyoming.
there you go.
That sort of thing.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, my mom sent me that shirt and I wear it sometimes. I make a ton of friends.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty comfortable with that unless you have anything you want to ask us. And I mean, I'm stoked that you let us do it, and I'm really happy Sam happened to be driving by and I could flip him off while we were getting some coffee. Yeah. It worked out pretty well.
Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Where can we get the L Bar 7 apparel?
Oh, okay. So I already had like 1,000 followers on Instagram through L Bar 7 Apparel, and I wanted to like kind of change into a production gig. So I changed it to, it's just L Bar 7 Apparel and Productions on Instagram. It's linked on my personal, just Nathan Kissack page. And we're super high tech. You DM me and then Venmo me, and I'll ship it to you within a week. And we got a girl in Casper named Kaylee who's doing it. And then if you're in Gillette, Wyoming, you can just DM me, and I'll get my buddy Derek Mallow. He'll drop it to you.
Banger.
Sweet. Or you can come to the concert tonight for Sam. I'm peddling that shit here and in Laramie. So I'd love to meet anybody and talk to them, but let them know what they're buying and what they're supporting. And hopefully they're comfortable with it. If they're not, they tend to sell anyways. So
yeah, absolutely. And I've done this before, and I'll do it again all this week. We got 2 Wyoming shows. We love Wyoming. We love Nathan. Show me that you bought some Nate Dogg merch, and we will kick I'll say 15% what we make off merch. We'll throw it in the hat.
All right.
Now
you got to get this thing out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
we can do that.
I will say, or when we get back, when we come back.
Yeah,
to
we can figure out a way
yeah.
to make it work.
Yeah. But as far as L Bar 7 goes, man, we're huge fans, and obviously huge fan of you guys.
Yeah, and we also A&O, Aaron Opportunity. You got to check that out, especially if you want to book a trip. That's all the shit we've been talking about that I've been guinea pigged on, where you don't have to do the dumb part.
Yeah.
He's got it all set up now.
We got it all figured out.
Yeah, all the kinks are out.
So if you wanted to do that, how would you book a trip then?
Yeah, you can go to aoadventureco.com. You can check that out there. Things are kind of crazy because I am sort of the ringleader and tour guide all in one. Right now we're on the Dark Sky Tour, so we're not booking any trips at the moment. But you can definitely email me for some one-on-one stuff, words of encouragement, and anything else you want to talk about. I'm always there.
Utah, Texas,
yeah, Utah,
Louisiana,
Texas. Yeah, I do have a seaplane, so if you like to fly, we can go fly in Austin. We can also go fish the Barrier Islands in Louisiana, catch some trouts and reds. They're just basically, if you want to have some adventure in your life, aoadventureco.com. You can also email me at aoadventureco@gmail.com.
Sweet.
Cool.
Looking forward to your show tonight.
Yeah, man.
For being on the show, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate
of course.
you
It
guys.
was a blast.